What's up, guys? Look who's on the stand. Finally. I think I'm gonna start digging into this thing. I know it's late. Friday night, of course. My wife's still working. She'll be out soon. Kids are sleeping. And yeah, I think I'm ready. I know I had that issue with the Baja recently as far as the electrical is concerned. It seems like I've got everything sorted out, and in the end, I appreciate the offers from those of you guys that offered me servos, kill switches. I mean, I appreciate everything. I try to avoid charity as much as I possibly can because, you know, I can buy this stuff, but I'm constantly trying to do this thing on a budget. And, you know, again, I really appreciate those of you guys that reached out and said, hey, listen, I'll box it up for you. I'll send it out. No problem. I got those sitting on a shelf, or, you know, I'm not even using them, that kind of thing. So I think I'm good to go. And I know I got a lot of comments that talked about, you know, not using the stuff that got melted in the Baja battery box. And so, of course, I was concerned with that, and I went through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and in the end, I made the decision to cut what was melted and solder, test again, and in the end, my servo, my steering servo, my throttle servo are working. My kill switch is, I had to put a new lead, put a new lead line on it. Luckily, I was able to save the connection. Can't remember what the name is for this particular connection, but there's so many of them nowadays. I just can't keep up with them. I could back in the 80s, but so yeah, I put a new lead line on it, soldered it, put some heat shrink on it. One of the things that did get affected, oh, my camera's not focusing for shit. Sorry about that, guys. Again, I'm using my phone until a new camera shows up. One of the things that did get affected was the speaker. The LED was fine. The LED that goes to the kill switch. And fortunately, Killer RC sells all the extras separate. So I think for like, I don't know, for like $7 or $6, which is basically what these things cost anywhere, $5 or $6, I can get a new speaker, plug it right into the kill switch, and I'm good to go. And I tested the kill switch over and over again, and I'm satisfied with it. So we're going to give it a whirl. And of course, I'll test it when I get out in the field too. The servos, I heat shrink the wires after cutting them. My steering servo worked great. Throttle servo, I taped it up a bit, but again, soldered it. What else? Oh, the Turnigy on-off remote switch for the lights on the front of the Baja. I rewired that, and I did it after the power switch, which is the way I think I did it before, but I have myself questioning whether or not I didn't or did. If you guys have ever wired up one of those Turnigy switches, the on-off remote switches, so that you can turn your lights on and off from the remote, they wire directly into the positive and negative for the battery. A lot to explain. I'm not really going to get into it, but I wired it after the on-off switch. So the only way it's getting power is when that on-off switch is on and drawing power from the battery, as opposed to before the on-off switch, which is the way I did it before, but I got myself second-guessing what I did. And of course, I wasn't able to distinguish or even make sense of that after everything was burnt and melted. I couldn't. Everything was too badly damaged for me to determine it. And to be honest, I wasn't even looking to see if that was an issue. But part of me started thinking after, maybe there was an issue with the battery because of the way I had it wired, but I don't think so. I charged that battery 3 or 4 times with the same wiring setup. One of the things I did mention in my other video was that NYMA packs tend to have a memory effect, and it's been determined that they don't. As far as like NiCad and NYMA batteries, there's a voltage, I forget what they call it. It's like a voltage depression, and it's been confused with the memory effect. From what I read and from what others have talked about and reminded me, those packs do not have a memory effect. As far as charging them, I always discharged my battery and then charged it. Another guy who's been charging them for decades said that he never bothers with the discharge. He always just charges at half the rate that the pack is rated for. So if it's a 3,000 milliamp pack, he charges at 1.5 amps. And I did that tonight, of course, standing by with this pack, 1.5 amps. This battery at about 2,800 milliamps, when it got up to about 2,800, it started getting really hot, and I didn't like it, so I shut it off. So again, the temperature sensor that I ordered, it'll be here in I think a few days, is going to be key as far as these, just charging batteries in general. Venom, they did send me a new pack. When I called them and told them what happened, of course, they had no way of knowing, whether or not it was their battery's fault. I had no way of knowing, but they did send me a new pack, and at the time, he didn't have any in stock. It was really kind of weird because when I called them, when I contacted them on Facebook, they said to contact their 1-800 number. Well, I called their 1-800 number from my cell phone. I'm on the phone with a guy. I'm telling him my story, and he goes, "So did you buy this battery from somebody else's account?" And I said, "Yeah, my wife." I said, "Wait a second. He goes, "Well, you're Daniel Perry, right?" I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Did you buy it with, my wife's account?" I said, "Yeah." So they knew who I was based on my phone number. So Venom, and I asked him, I said, in the beginning, I said, "I never registered this battery. It said that I didn't have to. So is that going to be an issue as far as getting, a refund or getting a new one?" And he said, "No, we don't bother with that anymore." But apparently they track all their battery sales. Even though I bought it through them, through Amazon, they knew who I was without me ever telling them. So that was pretty crazy. And so they told me they didn't have any in stock, but they'd ship one out second week of May, and it arrived today. So that was pretty cool. Of course, I'm, not in a rush to use that Venom pack after what happened, but again, guys, I have to chalk it up to, to me being careless and walking away from, from the charger. Sorry if that fan's being obnoxious. I don't know how loud it is in the video. So yeah, I won't walk away from a charging battery ever again. NYMA pack or not. And the temperature sensor is coming. There's a cutoff in here so that I can set it at whatever cutoff I want. So like, for example, tonight, if I wasn't standing here, and it got to the point where it was too hot, or it would have just shut it off like I did. So this is another strange thing. This pack here, reading totally dead, right? When I plug it into the receiver, it gives you a readout on the FlySky transmitter that this battery pack is dead. I go to put it on a charge. It charges to about, 200 milliamps, and then it tells me it's full and stops the charge. What's up with that? And at the time, it was showing that it was charging at 9.5 volts. Shouldn't be reading 9.5 volts. These charge at a steady 7.4, give or take. So this is all taped up only because the outer casing got damaged. But what's up with that? I don't get it. So is this pack junk? I don't know, but I don't have enough time tonight. I won't be out in the garage long enough for me to test this and then put it on a discharge and a charge or a charge period. I don't have time, so I'll deal with it another day. But I like to have that as my backup pack for when I take it to the track. So this is charged up to about 2,800 milliamps. It got a little bit too hot for my liking. I shut it off. Should be good to go. Long story short, in true Dan Perry fashion, I say that way too much, I know, but you guys are good to me, so nobody busts my balls. It's on the bench. We're going to start turning some wrenches on this bitch. One of the things that was an issue right out of the box and is an issue with the Vekta platform in general, apparently they didn't do anything about it when they made the clone, is these. It's it takes a hit from this side here and it snaps. Of course, they've made an upgrade for it, and I asked Ghost or Area RC, SCZ, whatever they want to call themselves, or however you want to refer to them. I asked them to send me a new link for that upper trailing arm, and they didn't. So I asked them again, and they didn't. I gave up. By the way, while I'm looking at it, I'm not super excited about the paint as much as I was initially. I should have shadowed the edge. And again, me being new to painting, I really didn't want it to have a dropped or a shadowed effect. But at least I didn't think I did. But after it was done, I started realizing that I should have shadowed the edges with a bit of black fade, and it would have given it a layered effect. So I won't do that next time. Am I still happy with the paint job? Yeah, I am. I really am. It was a tough paint job, and I am happy with it for one of my, I guess it was my second or third paint job. And it was actually fun. These panels were fairly easy to paint in comparison to painting like a shell. It's tough to work inside a shell. Oh, by the way, I cut the windows out. I know it looks like hell right now. I started cutting it with a razor blade and scoring it, and it's just a pain in the ass with these 5th scale shells. So if you guys have ever done it, I ended up breaking out my Dremel, and I put a cutting wheel on it, and of course, went against the the spin. It just shared it. Initially, I made a shit. You can tell this is the first one I did. I was cutting the wrong way. I was letting the Dremel pull. You know what I mean? And you're not supposed to do that. So again, me being new with something like that, I made a mess of the first window, and all the windows are cut. I decided to cut them. I wasn't going to initially. Of course, I left them clear. But I think this engine's going to need a lot more air than it would have been getting. So, and I think it's just good for it anyway. So I cut them. Now I've got to clean up the edges, which I will do. I'll probably use one of the Dremel bits for that too. And yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, as far as like painting a shell, it's a pain in the ass because you got to really get in there. And the 5th scale shells are a hell of a lot easier than like a 10 scale, That was one of my first paint jobs. Well, I guess that one was, but that was my first airbrush paint job. And I still want to dig into that. It's got a brand new engine in it that I won on one of the Facebook sites. I won the raffle for it, and that's all it needed. And a reverse servo. After I'd pulled out all the old radio equipment, the old analog shit, I upgraded it to digital from the stuff that I took out of the Rovin. All right, man, I get sidetracked easy. I just have so much I want to tell you guys. So yeah, this is it. This is the clone that caused so much controversy. I was losing my mind. I was making rant videos, man. I was getting some hate mail. But in the end, it's all good. Yeah, so this is it. There's a problem with it, aside from that issue, which I've decided I'm going to either just replace with the Vertigo stuff, which is very expensive, by the way, or I'm just going to throw a stock end on there. I can buy the kit. Kraken sells a kit that comes with all the end links, plastic end links. But there is a problem with it, and I'm going to try to show you guys while it's up on this bench. It's got a bind in it, and I really, from what I understand, I don't know much about the gearbox in this truck. In fact, I don't know anything about it. I really don't. I know that's the brake cam. I know that's the clutch bell, and I know it's got a slipper clutch in there. Well, at least I was told there's a slipper clutch in there. So on top of running a traditional clutch, you're also going to be dealing with a slipper clutch, and then you've got your brake. So it's essentially, it's only got one brake. There's a bind in the drive line, and it's actually to the point where it's rubbing up against this. Let's see if I can get it to do it. It's at the bind point right now. So I'm trying to spin the wheel. and now it's beyond the bind point, see? And again, there it is, see? I wish the stand would hold it better. So it's free right there. You can tell it's look how much spin you get out of the bell versus the spin I'm putting on the actual driveline. It's crazy, right? And there's your gear ratio. So again, watch this. See if you can see it with me holding it, the phone with my left hand. My wife calls me Shaky McShakerton. You can even see where it's worn. So I don't know what the deal is with that. I guess it's probably best that I download the Kraken manual, because of course this didn't come with one, but I download the Kraken manual, the PDF, and take a look at what all is going on in here so that I can get a better understanding of it all and go from there. I noticed that the Kraken has released the capped ends for these shocks, because clearly you can see they would pop right off, and guys were having that issue while they were doing their break-in, you know, not even running hard. So that's pretty crazy. But they've announced that the new Kraken trophy truck, which I'm wondering when they're going to release it. It seems like they've been kind of working the Aussie Max engine into the picture and making it reliable enough to or competent enough to run one of those big bore engines. I think that they're of course paying attention to what all is going on right now in fifth scale, and the big bore engines are just taking over. They really are. I mean, of course, they have no place in the racing world, at least at the moment. But it seems as though Kraken has their sights on making sure that their new trophy truck can handle a big bore. And it seems as though all the guys that, I know I talked about getting a big bore for this and, having it be my big bore rig. It seems as though everybody that's done an Aussie Max big bore, whether it be a 46 or, whatever the case may be, has sold theirs after. They've sold their truck after their Vekta. I don't get it. I don't know, the story behind each situation, but I've seen at least a half a dozen of them built, and then a half a dozen of them, or almost a half a dozen of them up for sale. Less than a month or so after they got, they did the break-in and showed their initial video on Facebook and was all excited, and then boom, it's up for sale. So I just don't get it. Maybe these rigs, the gear ratios are issues. Maybe they're just not satisfied because the big bore will not allow, this chassis, this platform will not wheelie. Nobody's been able to get this thing to crack a wheelie. Whether they put, 10 billion volts of electricity through it and make it a fucking E-word, or they put a damn 90cc ALX engine in it. It still just breaks the wheels loose and it will not wheelie. At least that's what I haven't seen anybody tear this thing a new ass and send it up in the air. It just breaks the wheels loose and chews up real estate. Of course, Vertigo has done a whole new gearbox setup for it, which is going to be introduced soon, and they're already taking orders for it. So that's pretty exciting. There's just so much going on with the Vekta. It's kind of hit hit the point where all of the issues that were found out have been corrected, or upgrades are available for them. So I guess it's kind of good that I waited and let this thing sit in the corner and just collect dust, because now I can really use what research and what information is out there rather, and do my research and figure out what I want to do. But this is going to be a long one, guys. We're already at the 20-minute mark. I have a decision to make. Do I want to just get this thing running and take it up to the track and beat the hell out of it? The guys up there were like, dude, don't bring that thing up here. Because everybody's seen them on the track. If you haven't, there's a few videos out there. They're pretty good. From what I understand, they steer really good. They got really good handling, but when it comes to jumps, the way the engine is mounted up here, they seem to just dive to the right. They dive forward. No matter how much gas you give it in the air, the ass end doesn't seem to level out. It doesn't seem to pull the front end up. They just don't seem ideal on the track, and especially compared to a 5T. And I think that's why Kraken also decided to do that trophy truck, which I think is really going to be awesome. It looks like a badass truck. So yeah, I got two ways I can go with this. I can let it take a while and really just take my time with it and have it be an all-out badass build, like one of the best rigs I have. And if I do that, it's going to cost me, I don't know, roughly $2,000, and that's on the light side. That's spending maybe $600-700 on an OBR or an ESP34 full mod, ported full mod, and then buying all the Vertigo upgrades, buying a LiPo battery, buying LiPo capable servos, good servos, buying the little extras, maybe the LED light strip for the top, the one that they sell, making sure that I have MIP straps, just all the miscellaneous full force RC stuff that they sell. You name it. I mean, I'm thinking maybe close to $2,000, or I can just get it running and have some fun with it. Have as much fun with it as I possibly can. And as far as that goes, based on what I have already for it, I think I could do it relatively cheap. You guys let me know what you think. These two engines are in great shape, low runtime on them. One already has an Easy Start mounted with the Easy Start milled flywheel. This is a Rovin 30.5 and this is a King Motor Rev 30.5. I could buy an ESP kit if they fit these engines. I don't know if those ESP kits will fit the bottom end. I don't know if the head fits the bottom end properly because these aren't CY engines. They're not Zenoa engines. They're Rovin and King Motor engines. So I have to make sure I get that question answered. But for $177, you can buy that ported Stroker kit, the ESP kit, which from what I understand is pretty badass. So I'd like to know more about that. And if that's the case, there's $200, we'll say, and I've got a badass engine. Nothing crazy, but enough to move this thing around and have some fun with it. Or I put these things back together and I sell them for $50 a pop, and I buy the Rovin 36cc for $200. I've heard great things about that engine, and it seems to be ripping ass. Every video I see it in, it's got those Bajas up in the air, front wheels up in the air. Granted they're buggies, but still, if it's getting those up in the air, it's moving out. And it seems like it's got a ton of torque. Everybody's had a lot of good luck with it. It comes with a rebranded 1107 carb. And for $200, it's ready to drop in. So I could go that route, get a brand new engine. I could use the brand new King Motor throttle servo that I have in a box right down there. I could buy one of those Rovin high voltage servos for $30 to $50, a steering servo. I believe they've got a 50 kg one. Install it here. I could buy a cheap NYMA pack or whatever will fit in here, a life pack. I have a kill switch for it already. I could use this kill switch if I can find a damn place to mount it. Who knows? But it's an iKilly. I picked it up used, but it's in good shape, just like the one I run on my X2. I have this area RC clutch, but I don't believe it can be used because the bell, of course, I don't know anything about this setup yet. I believe this bell is specific and needs to be. So I'll learn more about that. But I have already brand new air filter set up, the intake, all the linkage for it, I am using the steering arm, the Area RC steering horn on my X2, so I'll have to get a new steering horn, but I have all the stuff that came with it. Steering push-pull rod, throttle brake linkage, air intake, mount that right up to the engine. I have this super easy pull start that I can't use on my X2, so I could use that on this because this is where they mount, and that would be perfect. I believe it would fit anyway. It looks like it would fit. It would have just enough room. I have, and if not, I have this one too, which goes to that. I have plenty of fuel line, and I have a fuel filter brand new in there, and I have a brand new grommet. I just have to put another hole in it if I was going to run a vent, which I would do. I mean a vent. I'd keep the vented cap, and I'd run a vent here as well. So I have fuel line. I would need a clutch if I couldn't use that one, of course, but I could use a standard $12 clutch, or I could grab maybe another one of those 4-shoe clutches for $40-50, like the one I'm running in that. I would need to replace that broken end link, but like I said, I could replace it with a stock, a stock setup. I believe it's $15 for the Kraken replacement end link kit. It comes with all the different ones, I believe like 10 of them or something like that. And I would need a fuel line vent, for the for the grommet for like $4 or $5. So yeah, I mean, in the end, I think I could, on top of the price of the engine, whether or not I went with an ESP kit for one of those or bought the Roven 36cc engine, I could do it for like $400. I could get this thing running. Oh, exhaust. I didn't mention exhaust. I talked about everything but exhaust. What I'm thinking about doing is mocking it up with one of those engines and seeing, I mean, and again, this is pretty ghetto, guys, but I'm going to give it a try. Seeing whether or not I can get, what kind of pipe setup I could run. Can I get maybe a cheap clone pipe, Baja pipe, get a header that mounts a specific way and just run some $30 or $40 exhaust. Maybe I can get away with that for now, just so that I can get this thing running and have some fun with it without spending $200 on a pipe. Or I have a can. Let's not forget the Zenoa came with a can, and I could always just mount that can. I forget where it is. I think it's in a box down there. But the Zenoa came with a can muffler, so I could just put the can on it, for what it's worth, just to rip around the track. So for basically for $400, I could get this roller up and running, providing this situation here isn't actually an issue. And if it is, can it be fixed? Ready? See that? Watch. This damn thing's moving so much. You'll see it pull away from it in a second. See? Is it just bent? Is it just because of the way the angle is? Is that normal? What is that? You know what I mean? So I've got to figure all this out. It seems that it's tough to see, but this side sits on a downward angle. So this drive sits on a downward angle, and the other, of course, sits 90 to the chassis. Well, guys, it's probably a good thing that my phone's about to die, because I'm sure you've had enough of my mouth. Stay tuned. I'll figure out which way I'm going to go with this thing, and because I really want to run it. I don't know. I just want to run it, and I don't have the. No way my wife is going to put up with me just whacking the debit card for $2,000 and having boxes of parts show up for this thing so that I can go out and run it. But I guarantee I could get away with spending a few $100s over the next month or so and have this sucker running for next season. And you guys will get to see a Vekta Clone, yeah, but a Vekta basically tear up Shady Oaks. And I'm sure it would beat the shit out of this thing, but why not? I mean, I only paid $650 for it or something like that. You know what I mean? So stay tuned. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think. Should I go the slow route, build it right, do it right? like everybody else did? Or should I just slap it together and have some fun? Talk to you soon, guys. Thanks for watching.